Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on.
You're listening to Drunk on Broad, Philly Sports Unfiltered! From Broad Street down to the bank, we bleed red, green, black, blue, and gray. Racial classes, game day pride, Philly's hardware, drunk on the ride. E.A.G. Elliott flying high tonight, Six Stars lights up, the sky's so bright. Flyers crash like thunder on the ice, Philly swinging, everything's nice. Union chanting, passion loud and raw, city of grit, we break every law. Down, drunk on broad, no we don't sleep. City of champions, running deep. For another round, let's make it loud. Feel it forever. We're Broad Street proud. Drunk on Broad, yeah we're home. Drunk on Broad.
Oh well, good morning. It's Monday morning. Don't adjust your televisions. It's Mark. We're going to talk some all things Flyers. There's a lot to recap since we last talked. We can wrap up a little bit of that playoff race and kind of what we see from the NHL versus where the Flyers are in terms of their progress. We've got the draft, and then we've got some in the impending free agency, but also there's a lot of player traffic, a lot of guys moving, switching jerseys. So talk to me about the playoffs, right? You got Carolina, which we saw in round 2 of the playoffs. They sweep the Flyers, but the games were competitive. I think we saw a lot of fight from this team, but you really saw Carolina kind of get better as the rounds progressed. You see them really kind of take that stranglehold all over that series in Vegas and really just play at an elevated level. Talk to me about what you saw from that Carolina team.
Yeah, they're what a great team, great group of really great team, really good group, and great job by Eric Toluski, the general manager, for assembling that group. And I can't think of a better team that, often in hockey teams talk about, identity and how they want to play. And there's no team in the NHL that adheres more to their identity and how they play and take on the kind of the life form of like what they envision for their team. You know what I mean? And and that has a lot to do, I think, with Rod Brendamore being such a good, like, a positive influence in terms of just understanding his players, understanding players in general. Of course, Rod, we know Rod was a great player for a long time. So, yeah, they're a really good team, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. They'll be good again next year, and they'll keep finding ways to get better in the margins while they try to keep their core intact. But they got a good group, and it was a good run for them. I mean, like, really, in some ways, I think there was some historic, things about that run too, with how I think, like, how often they were winning at home and things like that. Yeah. Where they made you want to talk about ice tilt and like home ice advantage, and like that was, Carolina definitely owned that throughout the playoffs and stuff like that. They were rarely beat there
Yeah.
in Raleigh. So just a really good team. I mean, I have no problems. As I know the Flyers were kind of in their way on their in their cup run here, but
Yeah.
as a hockey fan, I had no problem with watching a team like that win the Stanley Cup, especially with um, so many good players. Rod Brindamore seems like such a great, not just a great coach, but he seems like a really, really solid guy too. So, um, you like to see guys like that winning. I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think you saw them kind of like you were saying, they really did take on that persona of their coach. And they embodied everything that fan base kind of entails. They really are like, and it's weird because like where they are in Raleigh, um, is like when you, when you think about like the teams in that region, even though you do have the Hornets and Charlotte, like they really are more of like a standalone franchise than they are anything else. And that city really does kind of rally around everything that they kind of feed off each other. Um, I saw a team that was just they were fast, they were athletic, they were relentless, they were everything that you would want from a franchise. Um, in terms of where you want and it's kind of like a good carrot to have, right? To kind of like look at like how they're building this team, and because a lot of their strength is built from it's built internally. So when we do see them kind of I saw a story about them kind of being in the mix for Hellebuck, maybe, right? Like just like they're also relentless in that place where they know that like, I mean, their goalie play was incredible, and they're still looking at that position as a place that potentially maybe to improve. And I think that kind of comes off the heels of a lot of the moves that we're kind of seeing around the league. Um,
Mm.
but man, just like even though it was a 4-1 series, the games in that Stanley Cup were incredible. They were really it was like really elite level hockey, and only because of the timing of it, kind of reminded me a lot of what I saw from the hockey during the Olympics, like just an elite level, and to watch the game at its highest level. And it was nice, Mark, to see two teams that we
Yeah.
haven't seen. You've had that steady flow of, you know, you've had Edmonton there, you've had Florida there, like, and we see them making moves too. Um, but I look at this team and I'm going, man, they are just fun to watch, and really, really like the way that they compete. They never really stopped. But talk to me about what you're learning from that as we start to talk about the Flyers and the draft.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like I think looking at Carolina and stuff, I don't look at Carolina as and maybe that gives you hope, like for down the road here for the Flyers and stuff like that. Is I look at like a team like the Hurricanes, and they're not like a star-studded like Vegas and Carolina also were like really good, interesting studies in the sense that
mhm,
they're built very differently. Like
for sure.
Vegas is very star-studded. Mitch Marner last year, they go out get Jack Eichel, like all the other like big time trades they made. I mean, they fired a coach with like 20 something games left in the season just for the play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so they do
Yeah, for
things
sure.
differently. Whereas like Carolina's like on the opposite end of that, where it's like, I think they focus on things internally for the most part. And, and then like they add on the outside, like where you saw guys like Nikolai Ehlers, that like, but they're not like a huge free agent destination either.
Right.
Um, but I think of like Carolina, and I think about like moving forward in terms of like the Flyers draft and some of the things we're going to get
Mhm.
into is like the Hurricanes are a team that I don't believe have like bona fide stars on their team. They're like a team that's built primarily through like structure, identity, and they have like several high end players, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not just like we don't look at their team and say, oh, like kind of like we do with like like I'm just using Vegas as an example, but
Mhm. For sure.
um, like oh, it's like Eichel, Marner, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Whereas like it's just the Carolina Hurricanes. It's
It's the
like
sum of all
Jarvis.
parts.
Yeah, there are some of their parts. It's like Jarvis, Aho, Svechnikov, Stankoven. Like they're like a Jacob Slavin. I don't want to leave him out.
Yeah.
One of the best defensemen in the game. I like they're just they're like built as a some of their parts, and they just like I think they look at their situation and they're just like, let's just collect good players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and good players that fit what we do. And
Mhm.
um and they're like, they don't waver in that either. Like they
No.
they believe in it. The Hurricanes, it took them a while here, right? Like there was a lot of swings and misses. They were a perennial playoff team prior to this, but they
Yeah.
were like there was a lot of years where it felt like they should have did it, but they didn't. But they
I
never
mean,
came
that's
off
what,
that
Mark,
course.
8 years of playoff runs
Mm-hmm.
until it
Yeah.
culminated in a cup. Like they were
Yeah.
banging on the door for almost a decade. And
Yeah.
they kept running into they always ran into something or someone. And to see them kind of break through, and not just break through, but like break through and be able to like win it all. um you really do get a good sense of like how they're built, right? And which kind of brings me to the Flyers, right? Because the Flyers kind of, right, they're on the ascending part of this rebuild, where they've now, right, they've made the playoffs, they've won a round. um they were competitive in round two, against a team that goes on to win the cup. And it seems as though they're kind of building this the same way, right? To be good for, right? They want to build this team to be good for a stretch of time, not just like make one cup run and then kind of like have to sell off all the parts. And we've already seen Briere make a couple moves, right? The one that kind of kicked everything off, um, was the one on June 16th with the deal with Toronto. So you swap goalies in Erison and Joseph Wool, and then you also swap D-men in Benoit and Emile Andre, and then the Flyers pick up the additional third round pick. Upgrade, swap, kind of like where do you kind of see this deal?
I definitely think it's an upgrade. The goalie swap from a couple weeks ago. Wall's a good goalie. I think like he's a talented guy. I think injuries have been a problem for him recently.
Okay.
Um, if that's behind him and he's gonna split time, or there's gonna be like a 60-40 split or something like
Mhm.
that with Vladar, that's an upgrade for the Flyers. I
Yeah.
absolutely believe that. Um, I thought it was an even trade in the sense that like too like Emile Andre is I think there's definitely like an NHL player there. Um, and maybe in a different situation he'll get a different he'll get a little bit more specialized attention there, where it's like he kind of
Right.
had a hard time kind of cracking the lineup regularly with the Flyers because he could do a lot of good things. Like he's a really really I think Emile Andre is a really good um, puck mover and things like that, but he would have these occasional gaffes in his own zone that ended up
Right.
driving coaches crazy and things like that. And, they end up, you know, they end up in the doghouse or falling out of favor with the coaching staff or something like
Right.
that. So I think for him, it's like a classic change of scenery type of thing.
Okay.
Urson's already been traded again. Like,
That was funny,
uh,
actually. I saw somebody
yeah,
they had like and I couldn't tell if it was real or if it was like AI, but it was like the air that they had already ordered the Harrison Leafs jersey,
yeah,
and it was like, all right,
yeah,
he had about as long as a run as Frank Gore had with the Eagles.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yep. So Sam, like I think it just got like it's hard because I think like down the post Olympic stretch for him was like the best he had played in a long time.
Yeah,
And it seemed like he seems like a great kid and like a really good guy. Definitely takes his craft serious and stuff like that. But it just like yeah, there were just like times this year where he was just like really like he was really really bad and he was really to his credit he dug himself out of it. But it was just
right.
like I mean, I was at some of those games, covering some of those games, and he was pretty bad, and it just kind of snowballed on him,
Yeah,
and it
I remember talking about it.
yeah, we talked about it here, so maybe there's an opportunity in Ottawa where he can kind of like
Yeah,
rehab some of his value and stuff like that. But I think from a goaltending perspective for the Flyers, I mean, I don't think goaltending should be a problem for them. I think like they're going to look at um, hoping that they're going to get that Dan Vladar has reached a new level here
yeah,
as a starter, and Joseph Wall, like I said, is a talented guy. I think he just has to stay healthy. So if the injury stuff's past him, I think like this is a definite upgrade for the Flyers in goal. And as we know, you need goalies, and sometimes you need two, right? Like we
yeah,
saw, like we were talking
for
about the
sure.
Cup. Frederick Anderson played a lot of that playoff, and then Brandon Bussey came in and closed the door. So
Yeah,
sometimes you need both.
yeah. And I look at this and I go like, kind of. I'm viewing it the same way I viewed the deal with Vladar last year. Right, they're taking a chance on a guy that maybe needs a new opportunity, maybe needs a little like a couple of things to break his way. Right, and we've obviously seen the extension with Vladar to kind of cement him in long term, which I think gives them right the mindset that they can kind of know that they've addressed that position, that they've solidified a guy that and identified a guy. But I think having a guy behind him that they also feel really good about maybe puts less pressure on them to use Vladar as much as they did down the stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Like that's probably really the crux of it, right? Like
Right.
because if you view Dan Vladar as a starter, even after the one season where he like last year was really his only year he got the opportunity to start.
Right.
He made the most of that opportunity with the Flyers. Also turned out to be like a great guy, super teammate, what a leader in that locker room too. Like Tocchet talked a lot last year
Yeah.
about how much Dan was, how much of a leader he is in the dressing room and stuff like that. Um, and but to have somebody to spell him, and keep him fresh. So we're not leaning on him like in,
Yeah.
you know, 3 and 4s or back to backs, like, where you kind of have to think about, like it's not wise. We know, like at this point, I think like the numbers bear it out. It's like not wise to play the same goalie in back to back situations.
Yeah,
So it's like,
for sure.
it's like maybe we don't even have to consider that because it's like, oh yeah, like Wall will step in and play well. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it it it's it's just like it's good to have both
For
and
sure.
like so like I said, if Wall's healthy, they got an upgrade there, I think for sure. And
For
Benoit,
sure.
I mean, like I didn't even talk about Benoit, but
Yeah.
he's like kind of like a depth guy. I think he's like a good soldier type. Like
Okay.
he'll get in there and he'll get in there, block shots and fight and do all that kind of
Second,
stuff. All
like
that, like
second, third pair kind of guy that
yeah,
will just kind of like eat minutes for you.
yeah, like he'll step and in like a third pair role, extra D, like if they have to rotate guys or whatever.
Right.
And he'll come in and give you a little bit of like grit and things like that. So depth guy, but I think like you need those guys too. So
For sure.
that was fine with him in the deal.
Yeah, and then the other deal that they make with Garnet Hathaway, right? They deal him and a 6th-round pick to Florida for a this year's 5th and then a future 4th. Um, Talk to me about that, because that was one that I wasn't expecting. Like, it was a guy that was not great but not bad, just kind of like
Yeah.
and I couldn't tell if like this is like because I'm trying to read through the tea leaves here, because you see Florida collecting assets and really kind of like they're like, all right, thank you Eastern Conference, everybody had a nice year, we took a year off, and they're kind of like loading up.
Yeah, they are. Another Kachuk brother in there. Um,
Crazy.
you know, so yeah, it was like I kind of thought of it more of as like the Hathaway trade is like the Flyers want to try to clear out like some of these wing spots because they have so many wingers.
Okay.
And he's a bottom of the lineup guy, obviously. Like Garnet Hathaway, I think is like we talk about like the grit and the physical play and stuff, and he does bring that. But he's also like Garnet Hathaway is actually a pretty good like defense first winger too. Like
Right.
he plays off the puck pretty well. Like I think the numbers bear that out too. Like he's got even though he was like a non-factor offensively last year, like at all. Like he really struggled offensively last year, but um, defensively he's solid. He won't hurt you. Um, and yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, I think like because he was such a like he did a lot in the community with the Hath Zeros thing and stuff like so.
Yeah.
He was kind of a guy that was kind of like stepping in and like kind of putting down some roots here, like in his time with the
Yeah.
Flyers, like doing charitable work and stuff. Um, but I think too, like even though he's been hurt, and it doesn't sound like there's a lot of talk about, um, you know, how when he's going to be back or anything like that. But I look at like a guy like Nikita Gurbankin, who like had
Okay.
they were having trouble last year getting him in the lineup, and it seemed like they wanted to play him, but like they didn't know always where to put him. Like that's an opportunity for him now on the fourth line to kind of step in and maybe play regularly. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready for camp either. So like whatever he's dealing with seems pretty serious. I don't think the Flyers have actually said like I don't think we know
Exactly
exactly what
what.
this what he's been dealing with, but he's been out for a while. And but I look at like a guy like him, and like that's an opportunity there for him on that fourth line to kind of
Sure.
step in, and he's a fun player, like Gurbankin's a fun player.
Yeah.
When he did play, he was a fun guy. He's not afraid to mix it up and kind of raise the temperature of a game, a little bit of an agitator out there and stuff. So a little
For
bit,
sure.
he brings a little bit of what Arnie brought, I think. Like so, um, but yeah, like I mean, like the Panthers are kind of like the Sunrise Bullies down there with the both Kachuk brothers. They got Hathaway in the mix now.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, I don't know, man.
that team's going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah. They basically took the year off, right? And had they got everybody looking to get everybody healthy, and they are gonna come back and kind of lay claim to what was theirs. Um,
Yeah.
and then when you look into the draft, right on, we we kind of wait around all night, Mark, for the draft, and we wait to
Oh.
21, which was what, like 10:30, 10:45. And then
Oh
they
God.
trade, and then they trade the pick, right? They trade the pick. They trade 21 to San Jose um, for 27, and then they also add 62 and 120 this year. Like they definitely acquire more inventory. But talk to me about how you felt about that move, and then we'll talk about. I'm gonna mispronounce this 17 different ways, but Sokolevsky.
So Sokolevs. I'm still working on it too. So
right?
yeah, it'll take a little bit of time. I think to get the name down.
For sure.
Uh,
We got a couple years.
yeah, yeah, a couple years. So um, yeah. So I I wasn't surprised that they moved back. I think like when um, there were some guys on the board that I thought would be good fits for the Flyers. Like I think the kid, the Russian kid, Ilya Morozov,
Okay.
got selected right before them. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but um, I think the Flyers may have been like that. They may have been a fit for him. Uh, and there were some other kids that were taken before him earlier. Maybe I think like those guys were some players that the Flyers maybe had their eyes on, and then when they were selected, they figured they'd move down a few spots, gain another asset, and there wouldn't be a huge disparity in terms of like upside or whatever at that spot. So yeah, the pick I think was and I think this was kind of a theme with this draft was like the Flyers really seem to like prioritize like organizational depth. They were taking guys that I think they envision will fulfill NHL roles, but I don't know the upside. Like Sololovsky, I think is like one of those guys where first of all, I mean he's the kid's an absolute like animal, like in
Well,
terms
Mark,
of like
I'm a
freaking
size
nature.
right? Like I'm
Yeah.
a size guy, right? So when I see them draft a guy that's 6'7", 240,
Yeah.
it's got my attention.
I,
But when
I would have thought a player with that archetype, I would have thought for our next show, I would have thought the Sixers would have been looking at a guy like
all
that
over him,
versus yeah.
right? Like he seems like a guy that could crack the starting five at some point.
Yeah. Give us some a
Um,
little wing depth.
right? Like, but the more I kind of dug into it, right, the more I kind of realized that he's right. He's gonna probably go back and play in London, right? It's coming
Yeah.
from a really good program that has a history of good NHL player development, which makes me feel really good. The Flyers have a history in that organization with some guys that are in the pipeline right now. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
I just I look at this and I go like, all right, he's like a 3 to 5 year guy, right? He's years away from being in the conversation to kind of crack the roster. But you can't teach size. We know that we know that as much, but like talk to me about what intrigues you about his game.
Yeah. The physical part is the fun part, right? Like the big physical, like mean, like just mauler. Like that's like the
Mm-hmm.
fun part about his game. Um, but from what I understand, he actually can really move for his size, and like there's like a four-way. They call it like four-way mobility or like four-directional skating ability,
Mm-hmm.
where you can like not lose any like agility or anything like that, no matter what direction you're moving in. Um, and he apparently has that, especially at his size. That's pretty impressive, and that he's actually, especially in the playoffs, I think they've really referenced his play in the playoffs. Um, in the Memorial Cup, he apparently did a pretty great job defending in one-on-one situations. Top pick from last year, Brady Martin. I think Nashville's pick. There a lot of people reference the Memorial Cup playoff
Mm-hmm.
as like really opening some eyes of like, wow, this guy's actually, he's not just like a bruiser. He can actually like, you know, he can
Right.
really take away time and space in a way that like means like he could take away time and space in a way like that kills plays, not just like drifting out of position just to like run someone over. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, for sure.
so there's an actual like skill. There's some actual skills there that the Flyers are looking at beyond just like the what we often reference. And I think a team like the Flyers too, like with their history, the whole Broad Street bully, like that has preceded that's preceded them for now, however many years. So people often look at just on paper, they draft a guy like that. They're like, oh, they're just looking to like kick everyone's ass out there. But it's just like,
Yeah, for sure.
but he can actually like play hockey. Like
Right.
so, it's gonna be he's a project pick. I think like there's definitely some raw elements there to his game that he has to like smooth out and refine. But like you said, he's with London, and that's a the Flyers already have like quite a familiarity with London. Keith Jones is also pretty close with Dale Hunter from their time with the Washington Capitals,
Right.
and so there's a couple inroads there. So the Flyers probably have pretty good, to steal a phrase, like probably have pretty good intel on this kid and what he does well, and how they view him. But yeah, like I think they're looking at like if he hits, I mean, you're probably looking at like a top six D man, like a 5'6" guy, like maybe a bottom pair guy, kills penalties and provides physical play and stuff like that.
Sure.
And you know, at 27 in a draft that was kind of like in a lot of people's minds like 15 players deep or whatever.
Right.
Maybe it's not bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah, I
the
think
best
I
you
think
could
they
do
kind
at
of
the
saw the
spot.
window between 21 and 27, and the the players that were available all kind of fell in the same kind of in the same bowl, and they were like,
Hmm.
all right, well, if we can move back and still get a guy that we like that isn't a dramatic drop off between the guy that we want at 21, then why not kind of move back and collect assets, and then you get a kid with local ties with the second pick and Brett Lisk, who him being drafted on draft night and talking about his dad having a whole closet full of Flyers jerseys. Right, he's got the orange Jeep with the Flyers logo on the back. It's kind of cool to see them kind of pick a guy that has local ties. Right, so there'll be that story throughout his tenure with the Flyers. But you got a guy who's gonna another defenseman, and then they draft another goalie.
Yeah, yeah. They two goalies too. Two
Mm-hmm.
goalies. D men, right? Three D men. I think there was one forward in there
Yep.
with KJ Sauer. Um, but yeah, the Lisk pick is fun. I think there's um he seems like he's got a good baseline set of skills too. Like you said, big Flyers fan, which was a pretty cool story. His father being like a diehard Flyers fan. I don't know if you saw his media interview, but he came on it with a Flyers jersey on, like
That's
a
awesome.
like one he had. You know what I mean?
One that was just in the closet.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And I hope it works out for him. I hope he gets a chance to actually like come play for the organization and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and contributes in a positive way at the NHL level for them. That would be great. So yeah, it seemed like they were like Lisk is probably like I was like pretty intrigued with Brett Lisk, and what his what his upside could be, or you know, so I'll be keeping an eye on his development. I think he's at developmental camp this week too. The Flyers are opening up developmental camp this week, which I'm going to try to get to one of these days.
Nice.
But I'm circling Thursday. It's like the day maybe I'll be able to get over
All
there
right.
to Voorhees. But um, so yeah, so we'll get a look at some of these kids like right out of the chute.
Mm-hmm.
They get drafted and then they get to come to Philly for a week and kind of experience what it's like. And so yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how his game kind of comes along here. But definitely, like the Flyers were definitely looking, I think, to fill like the organizational depth chart here. Not a lot of big
Sure.
swings, like in terms of like, oh man, if this guy hits, he's going to be like a top line guy.
Right.
Um, but guys that I think they see as projectable,
For sure.
like
And everything that all the reports kind of going into and coming out of this draft was that this draft it didn't have the greatest collection of talent on the surface, outside of the top pick, um, and really looking towards 27 and 28 as more of like a projection of a better pool of talent. Um,
Mm,
but Mark, two stories that I want to talk about coming out of this draft before we jump out. Right, the one
sure.
is Alexander Karmenov, right, who's the 7'1", 180-pound defenseman that
Yeah.
gets by the Sharks, who's committed to go play at Penn State. Um, and there was the story of the kid that got picked at the very end of the first round, um, who grew up playing roller hockey in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
Though, like two really really cool stories coming out of the draft.
Yeah. Jackson Cover was the kid coming that's from the Cayman Islands. And um those are things that we talk about, growing the game and things like that, like
Yep.
whether it's roller or ice. Um, if you like get the chance to play, um, it can be like it's an infectious game. Like it really does.
Mm-hmm.
Like cover Jackson Cover, I don't think started playing hockey till he was like 13, 14 years old. So you have to be like 4 years later. Like you want to talk about like someone like taken to a game, fish the water, plays roller, then only plays what, maybe 2 years of ice,
Right.
and then he's in the like then he's an NHL first round pick. It's
It's
pretty
crazy.
fascinating.
Pretty wild.
How quickly that happened for him and all, but Ottawa Senators ended up taking him. I had him earmarked for the Flyers as like a guy maybe in the first round they'd take a look at.
Okay.
Maybe they were looking at him. Um, but I'm that's a really cool story, and you want to talk about like growing the game and all. That's like a you know knowing that they're playing like roller and there's like competitive leagues in like Florida and things like that. That stuff's good for the sport,
For
and
sure.
and then like Komarov like being such a like I mean I'm fascinated to see like if he hits. I'm fascinated to see what that game looks like at that size,
Right.
or
I
like how
mean,
you even like if you teach him how to play like positionally sound defense and like how to manage gaps and stuff like that. I don't know how
right.
you skate around a guy like that.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
listen, we saw what Zdeno Chara was like in terms of his
Mm-hmm.
ability. He's a guy who was what 6'9", and was
Six
a guy
nine.
that like really commanded that blue line. And just for me, it again, if it hits right, because you're talking about a guy who's 7'1", he's 280 pounds, right? Like he has the frame to put more weight on. That
Right.
like right, like if the game continues to develop, right, he's going to go play at Penn State, and Penn State is now developing a little bit of a good reputation for developing talent,
Sure.
and they have the hockey NIL budget to be able to bring these guys in. It's a real thing now, right? And you got the Flyers draft pick from last year that's going to go play at Michigan, right? The NHL
Mm-hmm.
has become more of a developmental league for the NHL than it's ever been. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's again, I think that's got a lot to do with the NIL stuff. But um, Mark, next time we talk, we'll have to. We spent a lot of time talking about the Flyers on this one. The next time we talk, I want to talk a lot about around the league, because there's a lot of moves that have been made around the league. We kind of touched a little
Mm-hmm.
bit on a couple of them, but we'll really kind of go around the league and see kind of where those off-season moves and where that's kind of taking teams in terms of the trades and then free agency. Um,
Yeah.
on the way out before we kind of jump in and out and talk Sixers.
No, I think you touched on it there. Like, there's already a ton of player movement around the league, and Wednesday is the opening of free NHL free agency. So I'm sure there'll be more trades and we'll be hearing more rumors and stuff like that. So there will be plenty to talk about. through the dog days of the summer, which will be fun, especially if you're a puck head, So
Sounds good, Mark. I'm gonna just play some intros, outros. We'll skip the song. I'll add it in later. We'll just kind of jump right into all things Sixers.
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, Mark, we're drunk on the court. We switch sports, but the again kind of format will be kind of the same. Right, we'll talk a little bit about this Knicks run. Really impressive postseason run. Again, a team that ran through another team in Philadelphia. They had, both of those teams that made runs kind of had that in common. We're going to talk. We can talk post draft and then kind of the direction that this team can go with the inflexible roster that they have. That Knicks run, right? They run in that they really dominated from the beginning of this playoff run, right? They the most bumps that they ran into were in that first round in Atlanta. But yeah, they really dominated at every other round, right? The teams that they encountered, they really just they took that level and just elevated it above every other team and really did the best job at playing the best game against the best matchup. And really, you saw Brunson, which is the most improbable superstar, really just dominate and lead this team to another championship, which is something consistent in his career, being his history of Villanova.
yeah, I talk a lot of I talked a lot of trash about Jalen Brunson on this show, and not being a fan, but I got to give him his flowers for this run. What a run there! That the clinching game and how good he was for the Knicks there to kind of put an exclamation point on what was going to be probably regardless. He was going to win Finals MVP regardless. Like I don't think there was anybody else that was in line to get it. On the Knicks.
Sure.
So yeah, what a great run. To be partial about it. The Knicks were really like. I mean, I look at their matchup too, like against like the Spurs, and I think San Antonio is like a good young team. I feel like they're a little early though, like that to get to the finals.
It would have been weird for them to go from missing the playoffs to winning the championship. It's almost like they had to like earn that stripe a little bit.
Yeah.
But Mark, a guy that I respect a lot, Tim Legler, listen to him talk about this series, right? He was a guy who was on the sidelines and calling every one of those games.
Yeah.
And he said something that was really poignant in that pointed out that Spurs team, young, talented, but not ready for the moment. There was one possession in every one of those games. Had that possession flipped, you're talking about the Spurs maybe sweeping, right? And there's the difference between a team that's ready for that moment and able to kind of capitalize on that moment, and a team that just wasn't. Because the Spurs were right to be able to take out Oklahoma City, and that series was a really, really fun one to watch, and be able to take out a team that went on a really, really impressive run last year. And then to get to the finals and see the Knicks play the way that they did, it was just really impressive to see how they all kind of came together and they all played their own role.
Yeah, they did. I thought like I would agree with that though, with Legler saying that. Like, I mean, that was very true. They did. I felt that way too. Watching San Antonio was like, there were a couple moments, especially late in games, with possessions like you pointed out, like where you know turning the basketball over in positions where you just absolutely cannot turn the basketball over, things like that. So it definitely felt like a little bit of they weren't ready for that.
Mhm.
Not to take anything away from New York. I mean, like they earned that title.
Sure.
And But I thought they played really. It was Brunson was the guy leading the charge, but I mean Carl Anthony Towns had his moments in the series.
Yeah.
Um, OG
We
Anunoby,
and we had
like
to play at the end of the game where they're coming back from down 39. Um,
yeah,
you saw you saw Bridges have moments, right? You saw guys up and down that roster that you know Robinson comes in and plays the role that he does. Um,
hmm
they were just from the top to the bottom of that roster. Everybody contributed, um, and it it was wild to see. And Mark, we were when that series is wrapping up, we were on a cruise down to Bermuda, and it left out of New York. So of course, right, every
oh
the whole boat, it was either a ton of people from Philadelphia, which was fun because like anytime I was wearing the Eagle stuff, I probably got about 65 Go Birds throughout the week, which was fun, right? But being in the sports bar on the boat while that game was going on, and it was packed. It was packed with Knicks with people that packed all their Knicks stuff, and I kind of felt for them, right? Because it was happening at the beginning of the cruise, and they
yeah,
missed the parade by one day, which was like my. I was like, oh God, I can't imagine. But to see the culmination of that, right? Because you're talking about what 52 years between the
yeah,
last time that they won it. Um, you know, it was. It kind of felt like it was like maybe the Sixers need to see that to be like, all right, pass the baton, right?
yeah.
You're next. Here's the next major city that hasn't really won anything in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually said that too to some friends and all. I was like I couldn't believe after like just being a basketball fan. I was like I cannot believe the Knicks just won the title. And I was like that gives me like if the Knicks can win a title, then it restored my faith in some of our teams that I haven't seen win. Where I was like if the Knicks can win it, if the Knicks can win the NBA title, then like another team, one of our teams can win one too, like
Sure.
so no matter how improbable, because
Yeah.
um, and that goes to like like you want to talk about like we talk about the NBA being like a superstar league and like a legacy league and all. I mean, Jalen Brunson's going to go down as like one of the greatest Knicks ever, just by virtue that he was like the leader of a
Yeah.
championship team. And it was like it was such an interesting dichotomy, right? Because for a while there, it was like nobody wanted to go to New York. Nobody wanted to
Nah.
play for the
Yep.
Knicks. And, uh, he kind of like ascended into a superstar status. It just all the things came together at the right time
Yeah.
for him to go to be there, to already have a connection with the organization with his father and all that.
Right.
So it was just like it ended up working out, in like obviously the best way possible, to win a championship. But yeah, another team that like we talked on the hockey show, like another team that I kind of view as like a sum of their parts, and
For sure.
but Jalen Brunson is definitely a star in the league. As much as I talk smack about him,
Yeah.
he deserved
I
that,
mean,
and it was cool to see that run.
there's a lot of people that have like that I think felt that way, especially kind of opened a lot of people's eyeballs when he got that contract in New York and they gave him that big money deal. Like and it's paid. Obviously, it's paid off, right? Because you win anytime you win a championship. But like you look at the players that he attracts too, right?
Mhm.
Like bringing in guys that he's played with in Josh Hart and Bridges, and they had Archie or was it Archie Diacono? No, who am I thinking of? DiVincenzo before they moved on from him, right? But like,
Mhm.
you look at Alvarado, you look at like they just had guys that like they played their role. If it was a 5-minute role, if it was a 12-minute role, if it was coming off the bench, if it was moving into the starting five, like they just did everything that they needed to do. And it's a shame because you when you talk about the Spurs, right? The Spurs have also a large collection of young talent. They're just not in that position, right? You saw Wemby ascend to that role, but also you saw moments of that youth. And I think this playoff run, I hope is the start of a long playoff run for them, because you look at you know they have Dylan Harper, right? That but like you talk about Champagne, right? You talk about like they have a lot of talent, right? And I think they're going to look to start to try to accumulate more talent around Wemby. But they just got they just got outclassed in a series that it it was wild to watch. But games that they were in, right? The one that I keep going back to that I think that not think that I feel like it swung the series, that game where they let the Knicks run all the way back, is just something that I could not wrap my head around it. Like
Mhm.
never once in that game did you think about calling a timeout or like
Yeah.
bleeding clock. Like I don't care if it's even in the third quarter, right? You go into halftime up 39, right? And you're
Mhm.
not, you're still chucking up threes, and you're not taking the points on the board when they're there. It's just something that like I can't. I literally still to this day I can't wrap my head around how you let a 39-point lead in the finals, when you had the opportunity to really put a stranglehold on that series, and no one stepped in. Like no one came in down to the bench and was
Yeah.
um, like let's start putting some points on the board. Let's start like,
Yeah.
and it reminds me a lot of that the Atlanta New England Super Bowl, right? Like if you
Mhm.
had run the ball and run the clock down to one,
Yeah.
like down to let the play clock run all the way down, there wouldn't have been enough time and enough possessions for them to come back. And
Right.
you just let that window open, and man, once they knew that, I mean that Knicks team already knew they had no quit, but you really
Mhm.
showed them that like anything was on the board.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true, and I think that just comes down just across the board too. Like the Spurs have they're not just young, um, they're not just a young team, but they're also like they have like a first time head coach, younger guy. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different inexperience there,
Yeah,
that just you know a learning experience for them, really, and
sure.
or you would hope. But I think Wemby, he's such a great, great player and great for the league and all. They'll be back,
Oh,
but
for sure.
you know, just too young, too quick for them, too much too soon, I think, and um, but it you never know what can happen. Like
For
that's
sure. For
why we
sure, right?
watch.
And the off season starts almost immediately, right? They kind of they take about a week off and roll right into the draft. But the Sixers hire their general manager in Mike Gansey, which I really like, because it really feels like they got a basketball guy, right? It feels like they
Mm.
got a guy that is like played the game, knows the game, um, and we can stop with a lot of like the over analytical part of the game and really look at like, and I think I saw that on draft night, right? On draft night at 22 or 21, was it 21, 22?
22. 22.
Right. They take LeBaron Philon, which is, again, you're talking about another a 6'3 guard, right? Who's 180 pounds soaking wet, but really talented, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think when you look at the way that how top heavy this roster is with the contracts with Embiid and Paul George, they know that they have to build around Maxey and Edgecombe and adding another scorer and a guy who, Mark, is a true guard, right? A guy that
Yeah.
you can let him bring the ball up, let Maxey play off ball, and really give the two of those two guys that are the most athletic guys on your roster opportunities to get the ball in space. But I like that they didn't draft for position, right? You could
Mhm.
have said like, yeah, we need a qualified backup big man. We need a wing, but they looked at who's the guy that's most talented. And Philon was a guy who, on most draft boards was in that, 8, 10, 12 range. So to be able to pick up a guy that was in that range at 22 without having to give up any other assets, um, I like it. I like it from a lot of
Yeah.
angles.
No, I agree. I'm a fan too. I love having the third option
Yeah.
behind Maxi and Edgecombe, like another guard in the mix. Um, I think that's really the basis too of, I think how people felt about the McCain thing was like, having another young, talented guard behind those guys as well, because you need that. You need that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, like I agree. Like this was definitely like, hey, let's take the best player available with the best upside. I think
Right.
um, he was really impressive at Alabama these last couple the last couple seasons he was there.
Mm-hmm.
I know he took on like a pretty heavy workload this season and played pretty well, shot it well. Um, I love like I'm a sucker for guards with really great handles and
Yeah,
guys that can put guys and other guys in blenders and stuff like that.
for sure.
And he has that slight frame, but I mean, uh, he's not the only player that's come in the league with a slight frame. Like he'll
Yeah,
figure it out with training and through his first season of pro basketball.
for sure.
Um, and I think he's versatile too. So I like Flyline a lot, and I'm hoping that you know the best they can do. Like you were just mentioning about like the backup big and getting a wing. They're already kind of in the market for that, right? The Sixers are already kind of in the rumor mill, looking to address those things in free agency. So,
Right.
which I think is coming up soon. So, you do that, and I think that's the best you can do. Gansey, that's the best these guys can do uh, in this situation, and just hope for like you said, like Maxi and Edgecombe are kind of driving the bus at this point, even though there's a lot
Yeah,
of inflexibility there, like with some of the contracts and things like that. Not
yeah,
that you're like, not that those guys aren't like good team guys or anything, but it's just like the contracts are the things that kind of hamper you, like when you're trying to build the roster out. But
for sure. I
it's
mean,
you definitely want to lean into that. You
between
want to
the
lean
two
into
of
the
them,
build
oh
with
my
the
God,
young players.
for
So
sure, right? Like, I mean, you've got Embiid making 55 and Paul George making 51. Like
yeah,
you're top heavy on that, right? And you've got Maxi right behind him at 37. So
yeah,
you're going to have to be those contracts are not going anywhere this year. Like both of
yeah,
those guys are going to be on your roster. I think when you look at the way that they started to use Embiid in the role that they did, kind of taking that second step, right, to be not the main priority on offense. Um, I think the more that you can allow him to play and play healthy, the better he can contribute to this roster. And but there's no way, like, teams are trying to get off of these contracts, not add them on.
Mm.
And the only way that you're going to get them off of your roster is by eating all or almost most of that salary. So, like, I think they look at that and go like, all right, well, if we're going to pay them, they might as well be on the roster unless something toxic is happening, which at this point we know from what we know isn't really the case. So you have to kind of work with what you have. And
Yeah.
adding a guy like Phylon is a guy that I think it will help long term, because I think by the time this roster turns over, you're going to have a core of Phylon and Maxi and Edgecombe, which is kind of where this league is going. It's going
Yeah.
more guard, like the athletic guard, athletic wing. And again, I don't think I don't think anyone thought that this was all going to get solved in one offseason. And they're a ways away from being a competitive perennial playoff team, right? They're making the playoffs. But again, we have yet to see this team get out of the second round since Allen Iverson was rocking those black jerseys back in the early 2000s. It's been a minute. And
Yeah.
I think, they've got some work, but I like the direction that they're going with Gansey, because the draft pick tells me that, like, they're collecting assets, which is kind of in the mode that they need to be in right now.
Yeah, and I think the hope would be like, like with those contracts, and would be like this works. I mean, Maxi's already gotten paid once, but I mean, like for Edgecombe and Phylon, I think you look at those like, okay, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're on the back end of those deals. Like when they're ready to get paid, we'll have it to give them at that point
Right.
without dipping into your luxury tax situation. Like that we'll be able to pay them and lock them up at that point, and that will be coming off this money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, hopefully like it would be good if they could find a way to thread that needle, or maybe someone's like a little bit, someone's really committed to the process, not to coin that phrase again, but like to like someone's committed and maybe they leave a little bit of money on the table this time,
Yeah.
for, so like that can happen too. But, no, I mean, like I really like the pick, and I'm excited to see him play this year, and see what he does, and how he contributes coming off, hopefully like in a very like well defined role coming off the bench, where like he's getting steady minutes, Phylon coming off the bench, and giving maybe that second unit some offensive spark. That would be, ideally, for his first year, the best we can ask for of him.
I think that for me, like, obviously we'll get a little bit of a glimpse in the summer leagues, right? The Vegas Summer League will kick off, next week in July,
Hmm.
on July 9th. But I don't know, Mark. I think I'm excited because it's obviously something fresh and something new, but to be able to see him play alongside of those two guys, I think it only has good things to come, right? And let's talk about the number, right? He picks 00.
Yeah.
I don't know about 00, right? I have some there is some 00 trauma there from the Sixers, right? There's a little correct me if I'm wrong, there's a little Spencer Hawes. I'm sure there might be a couple
Yes.
Spencer Hawes jerseys get the dust knocked off, and they get the classic Philly duct tape over the name. Um, but like I like it, and when you talk about the options of guys that you know that are going to be available around the league, right? We're talking about guys that are on the back half of their career, maybe guys that are just slightly past their prime, but maybe still have something to contribute, right? You're talking about guys like, and I'm just looking at an article from Liberty Ballers, but like Tim Hardaway Jr., right, Chris Middleton, yeah, right, like Mo Wagner, Marvin Bagley, like guys that aren't gonna like they're not gonna wow you, right? It's not gonna put the Sixers in the first story on Sports Center, but like guys that I think can come in and play a role and contribute.
Yeah, yeah. So some of the things I saw, like as far as like this summer, I think the Sixers have been tied to like Dean Wade from Cleveland.
Okay.
Uh, I've seen his name out there. John Collins, um,
Okay. I like
and
that. I like both of those.
yeah, I've seen their names attached to the Sixers, and I just recently saw. Like we were just talking about, you were just mentioning the backup bigs. I saw Jock Landale as
Okay.
a name for the Sixers. So, I'm cool with all three of those guys, to come in. Like, I've
Mhm.
always had, like, I've always, like, really enjoyed John Collins. I think that goes back to that playoff series when he was with Atlanta and he was just
Yeah.
killing us. Like,
Came
him and
out the
Trey
next
Young.
day with came out with the next day with the T-shirt.
Yeah, he was dogging us. I, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I like him like one of the most like I don't think it's hyperbole to say it like he's like one of the most athletic guys in the league. Like John Collins, like he's
Mm-hmm.
a freak athlete. Um and he's like versatile. He's flexible. You can put him in a number of different spots, I feel, because of that athleticism and stuff.
Right.
So I would definitely be interested. If I was the Sixers, I'm happy to see them attached to him. D Wade, like same thing, like a little bit of 3 and D there. Maybe gives you some of that. Um, because we've been talking about the wings being like something the Sixers had to address here for the last several years. But even though none of these guys are like long term solutions, um, you know, good enough for now, to keep this team, competitive, and one of these years, man, hopefully just break out of that second round and play in a conference final. I'm not even asking for a finals appearance at this point. I just want to see just give me a conference final. Uh, so
You're trying to get them at just trying to get them past something we haven't seen in a really really long time.
yeah, just give me the final four at this point.
I love it. But like Mark, some players before we jump out here, right? Some player movement around the league, right? You see the big move with Giannis going to Miami,
Yeah,
um, and again, I got to be honest, Mark. I don't know how much closer that makes them. Like I look at the guys that they give up, and you essentially strip that roster of a lot of talent. And right, they saw like the funniest meme of like a bunch of guys, like it's like a picture of their sidelines, and it's like a bunch of people in the front row wearing the Heat jerseys, and it's like this is the next five. Like
yeah,
because of the money he's making, because of the assets that they had to give up, that they gave up, right, and gave up some really future assets, right? There's a couple picks that are like in the 2030s. Um, I don't know how much better that makes them. And
yeah. It's
and the Celtics were in that mix and talking about swapping Jaylen Brown. Like for all Jaylen Brown has done, for him to be in the conversation every trade offseason is wild.
yeah. He seems kind of sick of it too. I don't know if you've seen him online and stuff.
Yep.
Which you don't want to be in that situation if you're Boston with him. I mean, like, if you end up trading him, yeah. I mean, if you can get a Giannis, that's a good thing. But now, like, you miss out on Giannis, and now you pissed off like another, like you made him upset because
Right.
he's in this mix now where like it's like, all right, well, I mean, like this is like every time now, like, you know, um, so yeah, like I'm with you though. I don't know. It's like I don't know what it's gonna look like for Miami. With like Bam and Giannis as in terms of like interior presence. Like okay, yeah, like that's gonna be impenetrable. I would imagine.
Right.
Um, but I mean, this team has like virtually no shooting. Like I don't know how they're gonna like.
Right.
I don't know how
In a
anybody.
league that lives on the other side of the 3-point line.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't know where the shooting's coming from. They're losing. I think Norman Powell's a free agent this summer. He
Yeah,
was there. They can't bring him back. And I don't think they can afford it. Um, he'll probably price himself out. So
for sure.
Davion Mitchell, is I think the right now the starting point guard. But I don't know about the rest of the lineup or the bench or like what that's going to look like unless you get some
Yeah.
like good deals on like vet mins or something like that. But I don't know how they're going to fill the rest of it out or get like some shooting.
Yeah.
Last thing I saw was like someone said like Clay could be headed to Miami.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
you know,
you're going to see a bunch of guys that are either going to that. I think you're seeing the same thing with wherever LeBron ends up, right? Like you're going to see guys
right?
that are just going to take the vet minimums to go play with those guys in the hopes that they can ride the coattails to a championship. Like it's the. I mean, we've seen that formula play out a little bit, but like
Mhm.
I can only imagine that there are going to be guys that like, do I want to go get you know a little bit more money and go play in Charlotte, or do I take less money, go play with Giannis or LeBron in like Giannis in Miami, or like I know the conversation with LeBron is like there's some conversation with Golden State, there's some conversation he
Mm.
teams up with
Yeah,
and kind of ends up in Miami. Like you can see those scenarios playing out because they've played out like that before in this league. But this league has, and this is something Mark we'll talk about on a future show. But like the bigger problem is that this league has created a scenario where the regular season is completely meaningless, and
yeah,
it really doesn't matter until the playoffs. Now listen, when the playoffs happen, the games are incredible. It's really
yeah.
competitive, and the difference between regular season and postseason are like two completely different games.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it could be like really like it could be a real like slog to watch like bad basketball.
Mm.
But there's like a few things as beautiful as good basketball, like elite basketball,
Yeah,
and so it's like that dichotomy, that the NBA has where it's like, yeah, like watching like two bad teams in the middle of January playing, it could be like really awful, but in the playoffs in May and June, man, like there's some like really, really great games when you're seeing like the best teams play the best teams.
for sure.
Um, but well, another thing you mentioned, like Charlotte, like I mean, Lamelo Ball got traded to Minnesota with
Minnesota.
Ant Edwards. I mean, I like that's another like too like it could be fun. I don't know, like I'm not quite sure of the fit yet. Like I mean, like Lamelo is like a really interesting like higher end player because like he's like not like he's not like a traditional point guard. He plays
Right.
very like. So I'm not like sure of like the fit with Minnesota and with Ant. Um, but I mean it should be fun. Like when you see two like high end players like that team up. Ant seems to be excited about it. So,
Yeah, listen,
but
I give them credit for trying something new, like trying
yeah,
something different, right?
that's
They obviously saw that like they took it kind of as far as they could take it with the group that they had, and they're like, all right, well, Julius Randle, you're out. Lamelo Ball, you're in. Like making some moves to kind of really see where this team can go is like,
mhm,
all right, like we and I think maybe Mark that might be something that we might see from this Sixers team, right? Like
yeah,
I'm curious to see how this roster construction kind of plays out, and whether or not they're able to move off of some of these contracts, who they bring back with Oubre and Grimes and the guys that they have on the roster, but the guys that the contracts that are going to come off, and where that roster flexibility comes in. It wouldn't surprise me if this new GM and the new front office kind of takes a different approach and maybe decides to eat some contract money in the efforts to kind of switch up the roster formation a little bit to get more younger, more athletic, and see what kind of opportunities they might have. So,
Yeah.
anything on the way out, Mark?
No, I think we touched on everything,
Yeah.
coming up here with free agency and all. And, we'll see what's next for the Sixers. But, I like what they did with
Sure.
Phylon and the draft. So I'm happy with that.
Most definitely. Listen, on the way out, go Sixers.